Hey, I'm the narrator of Nightmare at 3 a.m. Here, you'll hear first-person stories, intimate accounts that feel real, maybe too real. Before we begin, do me a favor. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is right now. And if this story keeps you hooked till the end, hit the like button. It helps me bring more voices from the dark to your screen. Tonight's story is about a man who retreats to a remote forest cabin, hoping to reset his life. At first, it's just silence, but silence can look back. And when someone knocks on the door during a storm, he realizes not everything outside wants to come in. Maybe it already has. I always thought it was hard to maintain friendships with co-workers. You see them every day, but outside of work, they rarely become part of your real life. Maybe that's why I let my guard down with Kayo. We worked at the same IT company in Eugene, Oregon. I was 27, living alone in a small townhouse, freshly out of an abusive relationship. I wasn't looking to get involved with anyone, especially not someone from work. But Kayo seemed safe. Long hair, calm, nerdy vibe. At first, he reminded me of a cousin, one of those quiet kids who grow up reading Lovecraft. It started with jokes on Slack, then coffee breaks in the break room, then lunch with the group. One day he asked no steps and together a bookshelf. I said yes. It was all very simple. He showed up with a drill and 2 beers. We assembled the shelf, talked about a book he was reading, and he left early. No moves. I felt respected. I even told a friend, I think Kayo's a good guy. In the following weeks, he started bringing me coffee at my desk. One day, he left a note with a quote from Clarice Lispector. I am as you see me. I thought it was sweet, but something bothered me. I never said I liked Clarice. The next week, he coincidentally joined the same Pilates class I went to. Same time, same studio. When I asked, he smiled and said, nice coincidence, huh? That's when I started to get suspicious. I began observing, and I noticed other coincidences. Kayo showing up at the same grocery store I shopped at, driving by my street. One day, I was leaving the DMV and saw him standing across the street, staring. The pie bag. I've always preferred cheap motels on back roads. Fewer eyes, fewer cameras, more silence. After everything that happened, silence was what I needed most. The GPS said the place didn't even have a proper name, just a faded sign, motel. Here, somewhere in northern New Mexico, near a town that barely showed up on the map. The receptionist looked like she had stepped out of an old portrait. Blank expression, hair tied up, monotone voice. She didn't ask for ID, just said, "How many nights?" "3," I replied, trying not to sound nervous. She slid a key card across the counter. "Room 6, careful with the doorknob. You have to push just right." I didn't question it. Took the key, my backpack, and walked down the stale-smelling hallway. The room reeked of damp wood and disinfectant. Sagging double bed, tiny TV, windowless bathroom. Perfect. Better than being anywhere someone might recognize me. That first night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The second night, a truck passed on the road and woke me briefly, but I went right back to sleep. But the third night, something shifted. Around 2 a.m., I heard the high-pitched chime of the room's doorbell. 3 rings, sharp as pebbles to the nerves. I jumped out of bed, peeked through the peephole. Nothing. Opened just a crack. The hallway was empty. I looked down. Wet footprints leading to my door, but none walking away. I went down to reception. The receptionist was still there, sitting, staring at an old CRT monitor without blinking. "Someone rang my door," I said. "Did you see anything on the cameras?" She looked at the monitor, then pointed. The grainy image showed my floor's hallway. A figure stood there, back to my door. Still, large build, slumped shoulders, no movement, no record of entry. "Did he leave?" "I didn't see anyone come in," she said. "But if you want to change rooms, I can move you to 4. Room 6 sometimes draws things that aren't yours." I went back to the same room anyway. I told myself I was tired, stressed, just paranoia. That's what I repeated to myself before trying to sleep. I woke again to a different sound. Not the doorbell, the latch, moving on its own. Then silence. But the handle turned. I was sure I had locked it. I jumped up, grabbed the desk lamp, stood by the door. When it opened, I saw a man step in. Big, dirty clothes, face lost in shadows. He said nothing, just came at me. I screamed, smashed him with the lamp, glass, shout, struggle. The thing backed off, stumbled out the door. When I got there, the hallway was empty. No footprints, nothing. I called the police. They arrived within the hour. The motel owner came too, groggy. He said room 6 had been closed since 2019. A guest died in there. No one had used it since. "That's impossible," I said. "The receptionist gave me the key. That woman, tall, thin, hair tied up." The officer raised his eyebrows. The receptionist you're describing, she died last year, heart failure. This front desk has been automated ever since. No one stays here at night. I left the same day, drove non-stop until I crossed the state line. I still carry the key to room 6. I don't know why. Sometimes I wonder if that figure didn't come to hurt me, but because it thought I belonged in that room, that maybe, in some way, I already did. As Shirley Jackson said, home is where, when you go there, they have to let you in. I follow that thought, and maybe, in that forgotten motel, someone was just doing their duty. I wasn't looking for redemption, just time. Time away from lawyers, court dates, and the echo of a marriage that died on a Wednesday afternoon. When the job came up, security and maintenance for a street of foreclosed homes in a dead-end neighborhood near Detroit, I said yes before hearing the pay. 3 weeks, light repairs, and nightly patrols to make sure squatters stayed out. Easy. The company gave me a badge, a branded windbreaker, and a manual. Most of it was common sense. Keep the lights off to avoid attention, check locks, no weapons. But one page was highlighted in yellow. Do not enter house 36. The key is not included. Do not attempt access. No explanation, just a warning. I thought it was a liability thing. Maybe the structure was unstable. Maybe someone had died there. The neighborhood looked like it had been frozen mid-breath. Perfect lawns yellowing with neglect. Empty driveways. Swing sets that never squeaked. At night, it was dark in a way that felt artificial, like someone had dialed down the sky. For the first 4 days, it was quiet. I parked my rental car near house 20, checked all the units from 18 through 40, then slept in 22, one of the few with running water. I never heard a single voice, no dogs, no passing cars. On the 5th night, as I was finishing my round, I noticed something wrong with house 36. The front door was ajar, just barely, a crack wide enough to notice. I checked my pocket. No key? Of course not. I stepped closer, careful not to touch anything. No lights, no movement. I whispered, "Hello?" and felt stupid for doing it. The door creaked as wind caught it, swinging open an extra inch. I backed off, wrote it down in my logbook. 36, door open, not entered. Will report. The next morning, it was closed again. I checked my logbook. My note was still there, but someone had underlined it in red ink. That night, it was worse. As I passed 36 again, there was a light on upstairs, a weak orange glow behind the blinds. None of the homes had active electricity. I stood there for a while, heart ticking, eyes straining. The light didn't flicker like a candle. It was too steady. I pulled out my phone to take a photo. The screen stayed black, battery dead. I walked back to my car and sat behind the wheel. Then I saw it, a folded piece of paper on the windshield. I hadn't heard anyone approach. I opened it, printed neatly in faded ink. "Don't close the door. She likes it open." That was the end of sleep for me that night. I reported it the next day. The dispatcher on the company phone said they'd flagged the note, but didn't sound surprised. When I brought up house 36, she paused. "Just keep logging what you see, and if you hear anything from inside, walk away." I was about to ask, "What do you mean here?" when the line went dead, and that was only the first week. I started hearing things on the 8th night, soft bumps, shifting floorboards. They always came from inside 36. sometimes a single knock, sometimes dragging, like furniture being moved. But when I got close, it went quiet. One morning, I noticed paw prints on the hood of my car, muddy, deep. A stray dog had been wandering the neighborhood. I'd seen him sniffing around house 34 the day before. That afternoon, I found his collar on the steps of 36. The houses all had the same design, same cheap drywall and same empty smell. But 36 felt older, thicker, like it had been there longer than the rest, and was just pretending to match. By the 10th night, something else had shifted. I found the back door of house 35 slightly open. I always locked it. Inside, there were muddy footprints, human, barefoot, crossing the kitchen floor. They stopped at the window, facing 36. That's when I decided to set a trap. I mounted a motion-activated trail cam in a tree across the street, facing 36's front door. I set the sensitivity high. If anyone or anything moved toward the porch, I'd see it. That night, the wind screamed through the dead trees. I couldn't sleep, so I watched from the window of house 22. At 3:12 a.m., the porch light of 36 flickered on. It shouldn't even have power. The bulb buzzed for 7 seconds, then darkness. In the morning, I retrieved the camera. The lens had been rotated 180 degrees, facing the tree trunk. Someone had touched it, but the ground around it was undisturbed. I found the woman that same day, or she found me. I was checking the breaker box of house 25 when I saw movement near the tree line. A thin woman, late 50s maybe, in a long coat, staring at the cul-de-sac. "You work here?" she asked. "Maintenance, security." She looked past me toward 36. Her voice dropped. "They'll try to make you open it. That's how it starts." "Who?" She didn't answer, just backed into the woods. That night, I found another note on my windshield. This one was handwritten, "She's not locked in. You are." I didn't sleep. On my last night, I found the front door of 36 fully open. No creak, no slow swing, just gaping black. I called it in. Static on the line. I waited. 10 minutes. Nothing. I told myself I just needed to document it. One step across the threshold and take a picture. That's all. I crossed the yard. The porch boards groaned like they hadn't been stepped on in decades. The air inside was still and heavy, thick with a scent I couldn't name. Wet plaster, rotting cloth, old sweat. Inside, the floor was marked with long scrape lines, like furniture had been dragged across it repeatedly. The wallpaper peeled in strips. Each room was colder than the last. Upstairs, a single chair sat facing a blank wall. Around its legs, the floor was worn to bare wood, as if someone had rocked in it for years. The chair shifted. Just once. No wind, no slope. I turned to run, but the hallway behind me wasn't the same. The stairs weren't where they had been. I was standing in a narrow hallway with closed doors on either side. A noise began. Wet breathing, raspy and fast, like something learning how to mimic panic. I slammed into a door and tumbled down unfamiliar steps. It took me out into the backyard. I didn't stop. I ran through shrubs, tore my jacket, scraped my hands on broken fence posts. When I got back to house 22, I locked myself in the bathroom and waited until sunrise. I called the company at 7 a.m. sharp. "I'm done," I told them. No argument, no confusion, just an address to return the gear. At the drop-off office, the clerk looked up after scanning my ID. "Did you actually go inside 36? "Yeah," she sighed. "You're not the first." I wanted to ask what she meant, but my mouth felt wired shut. I drove back to the cul-de-sac one last time, just to see it in daylight. As I passed house 36, something caught my eye in the grass. A rusted sign, half buried, flipped over. I pulled it up. Lot 36, model home. Do not sell. Maybe it wasn't ever meant to be occupied. Maybe it already was. As Joan Didion once wrote, we tell ourselves stories in order to live. I follow that thought, but sometimes the stories don't want to be told. Sometimes they want to be left alone. Thanks for staying with me until the end. If this story made you feel something, unease, curiosity, maybe even a chill, consider leaving a like. It helps more people find their way into the dark. And if you've ever experienced something that kept you up at night, share it in the comments. Who knows? Your story might be the next one we tell. I'm here every week at the edge of sleep, waiting to share what most people are too afraid to say out loud. This is Nightmare at 3 a.m. See you in the next one.